Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning. How are you, Bob?
I'm good. Happy Monday.
Yes, it is. Happy Monday, indeed. It's not a holiday. It's just another day in November, which is good.
But we're winding towards the holidays.
This is
probably the last week of normalcy, because next week's Thanksgiving, and then the parties come and the chaos and Christmas prep and holiday prep, and yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. I think that, and then I have no judgment on this, that the way that people look at holidays is different, especially I think next week. I think that people are starting their holiday on the weekend. And
Yes.
and I think because of the way we are working, many people now, and not everyone, if you're in the service industry, there's no doubt you are going to be busy next week. And I think that there are others who are like, this is an opportunity to take a full week or more. Rather, I think in the past, people would be like, okay, I have to work Monday and Tuesday because I'm going to be off probably at least half of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I just think that's different, which is, I think, maybe is a healthy way to look at midweek holidays, is how do we not just think about how much can we work, we also think about how much can we enjoy the holiday.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. It just seems that way. I have that feeling that, starting next week, people are kind of, they're much slower pace than this week.
I don't know. It might be a slower pace, but I also hear people saying, I've got to get this done by the end of the year.
True. There's no doubt.
So there's a tug of war going on there.
Correct. I think they're trying to make sure that they enjoy the holidays and still find time to get the things done that they need to and want to get done. So it'll be interesting.
Which makes a perfect time for our topic, expectations, right?
It does. It does. I wasn't even actually thinking about that necessarily as the way it came up. So welcome, everyone, to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, or as Bob likes to say, our daily cast, broad and pod. Got it right this time. So whether you are listening on a podcast or you are watching this on Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitter, we hope that you will enjoy the conversation around our topic. Our topic this week is about expectations, which I think is a good time. It's interesting, as I was thinking about that, I was wondering if expectations should have come before or after feedback. So we're doing it after, so we'll see what that looks like. And we'll try to provide our one thing, the one thing that hopefully will help you add value to where you are at, whether today or in the future. We would love to have your comments, especially if you are watching this live or recorded. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and feel free to add your one thing at the end if you would like. If you are listening to the podcast on Anchor, put a little plug in for Anchor there, or wherever you get your podcasts, please feel free to share it and rate it.
5 stars. Just wanted them to pause and think about it.
Okay. And because it'll get the word out more, and others will have a chance to maybe be impacted by this. So we appreciate your participation. All right. Before we dive into our topic of the day, we always focus on celebrations. Although I do have to ask a question. It's a Monday morning, so I'm a little, I don't know, out of sorts, I think. Are we on the right sides of this room?
No, we're backwards.
I wondered about that.
Do you want to fix it right now? So if you're listening to the podcast.
Oops.
Well, and then he does that. Tom is always on the left side and I'm always on the right side. And today we were reversed. It was throwing me as well, Tom.
Are you feeling better now?
I feel a lot better.
I think I do as well. There was something about that was just off enough to not really sure where we're at.
So we celebrate to start our program.
Correct.
And I'm going to celebrate consistency, because when you flipped it just now back to the way it normally is, it feels consistent. I'm much more comfortable. Literally, it was a game changer for me. How's that?
Interesting. Very interesting. And I'm going to celebrate professional development. This week, it's interesting. Over the last few weeks, I have participated as a presenter to help others with their professional development, whether it was at a conference or in a business meeting. And I think that's always valuable to find time to further ourselves. And this week, I'm participating in a week-long certification process to help receive a Standards of Excellence certification in nonprofit work, and really some of the best practices around that work. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I think there's 25 other people participating in the cohort. So I'm looking forward to the conversation and a chance to expand my mind on some of the things that I have been doing, and you sort of see where I have been on par and where there are things that can expand what is real for me. So that's my celebration for the day. So, Bob, what is the world, or at least the nation, celebrating today?
It is National Clean Out Your Refrigerator Day.
Clean out your refrigerator day.
You know, you got things in there that are past their expiration date. That can of jelly that Aunt Edna gave you 4 years ago that you just can't seem to polish off, and now it's moldy. Or the vegetables that you bought in a feverish pace last Thursday thinking you'd make vegetables over the weekend, but you weren't really in the mood for collard greens or kale or spinach or broccoli. Or it could be the milk that's in the back corner that you forgot about for 2 weeks, and now it's starting to get a little curdly.
Yeah, yuck. Mm.
And I would say clean out your refrigerator day in an office. That's really an exciting process.
Yes. Well, and I think it's also an interesting metaphor for, cleaning something else, whether it's your desk, your computer. I know offices that have clean your desktop day, and not your physical desktop, but actually your computer desktop. As people are struggling with storage, it's just like on your refrigerator, it's a good time to clean it out. Yeah, interesting. The biggest challenge for me with the refrigerator is berries. I buy berries because sometimes I like to make smoothies, and I just can never pick the right size for the amount that I'm going to. Either I don't have enough, or I have too many and I don't have enough smoothies, and they go bad, which I feel bad about.
And they entice you at the store with 3 for $2 or whatever, because I buy raspberries, and usually you get a discount if you buy 3 of the little containers. I threw away a third of a container this morning, which pains me deeply. I share your pain.
Yeah, it's not fun to, and the sizes never seem to work out. They're it's like Little Red Riding Hood. No. Yeah, Little Red Riding Hood. This porch is too small or too hot and too cold, and this container is too small, and that one is way too big. Yeah, there just doesn't seem
I'm with you.
The right fit there. So I think they have us one way or another.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a method to that madness. So.
No doubt.
All righty. So why don't we dive into our topic today about expectations? I guess I need to modify my expectations on the berries that I purchase. And let's dive into something that has hopefully a little more value for people about our own expectations is the conversation for today. So do you want to start us
Sure. I set unrealistically high expectations for myself every day.
Okay.
From being perfect to not making a mistake, to not upsetting anyone, to not doing anything wrong, to not losing money. I think I could keep going. And I'm sure there are people out there going, oh my God, that's me. He sounds just like me. I'm my own worst enemy. Honestly, I I challenge myself each day. I make it harder than it needs to be. And often where my expectations fall is because I'm only one cog in a big gear and I can't do it all. And if I do it all, that's not what I was, as a consultant, that's not my role. So there are times I've had to learn where it's like, okay, did I do everything I could? Yes. Okay, now it's in someone else's lap. And that's a hard lesson to learn. And just like, you make the perfect proposal for business, you give it to the person, and they go, oh, this is amazing. And then 3 weeks later, you're still waiting for them to sign the contract. That happens.
Sure.
And I think the less I set expectations, the more I accomplish. Not that I shouldn't set expectations, but I think there's a difference that you and I have sort of come upon with this day pack idea, that we set a different kind of expectation because it's grounded in the reality of the prior day.
And the reality of the upcoming day.
Right.
Again, you can be, if I thought about today, all the things that I quote unquote need to get done. Knowing what my day looks like, there's not even a chance. So even if I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and this, I have to get this done today. Likely I would be up till pretty late tonight trying to accomplish that. And is that the most effective way to do it? This becomes a question. So I think that's part of it, is that there's, I think that's the big question, is like, having our own expectations. I hate to say good or bad, because I'm not a big fan of adjectives, but I'm curious if they have value, and what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I'm going to try. I had a thought just now. You said and I said, we each said that we can't even get the right expectation around our berry consumption, which in the scheme of things is incredibly simple.
Yes.
Right. If I can't figure out how many berries I need for 3 or 4 days before they go bad or turn whatever they do, if I can't do that, how am I ever going to possibly set reasonable expectations around my work when it involves other people?
Sure.
So we're playing, we're playing two sides here. We're playing the elementary game of picking berries and getting the right number of berries. And then we're playing the adult game of, okay, Tom's got to get this done before I can do this. And then Tom's got to do the next thing. And then I got to do this. And then this person has to come in, and we have to make sure we go to the bank and get the right funding. It gets really complicated. So I don't know that setting expectations is the way to go. I'm wondering if it makes more sense for ourselves to set things that we're going to accomplish that are the next step.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because there's I'll take the flip side of that.
Okay.
That if we don't have expectations, are we not trying to achieve all that we possibly can achieve? So like you talked about, you wake up and you never want to do anything wrong, and you got to be perfect, and you got to get all these things done, and you got to do it yourself. And so in some regard, there is having some of our own expectations does challenge us a little bit. It provides us with it's even a little bit more than a goal, I think, because an expectation is a little bit more like it is going to happen, not this is where I'm trying to achieve, that the expectation is that this will be done. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that when we talk throughout the week about others' expectations of us. And I just think for ourselves, I'm torn with that. I think it's one of those things where I think there is some value to expectations, to maybe hold yourself to a high standard. And the other side of it, where it actually gets us stuck, frustrated, overwhelmed, and uncertain about what to do next, because there are so many expectations that we place on ourselves, or as you said, they're unrealistic. And how do we find that balance or harmony between having expectations that drive us and having expectations that get us absolutely completely stuck.
Or expectations that we just throw out there because it sounds good. I want to double my business this year.
Sure.
I want to get a big contract with the government. I want to X, Y. And where we say it, right? We set the expectation. I'm going to do this thing, but you're not doing the steps to get to that thing.
Yeah. And I wonder with some of those, it goes back to the words that we choose to use is, as you were saying that, I want to sounds more like a goal than an expectation.
I expect to double my business this year.
You said I expect. Different than I want to double my business this year. Right? Would you say that there's a difference in those two?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that that's the, maybe some of the flip of it is with an expectation, it sets ourselves up for if we don't accomplish it, we're going to be frustrated. So when you get up and you think, okay, today I'm going to be perfect, first time it doesn't happen, not that you might have a perfect day. I don't know. I think we talked about it last week and we kind of determined that in your almost 55 years.
No, it's almost 56.
Almost 56. Sorry. I was trying to make you a little bit younger. That you've never had a perfect day. And so that expectation is almost setting yourself up for the fact that it's not going to happen. And, and I think that then leads to finding fault, which we have talked about, and the feedback that we get based on it.
Well, and let me turn it a different way. Last night, I had a discussion with some vendors that were working with me, and there's a project I've been working on for 6 months, and it's fallen apart. And it pretty much died last night. And I was talking to a friend about it and saying that I've got to explain it to the customer today, and I'm probably going to lose the customer and lose some other things that are really important to me. And I got a text from him last night saying, hey, what if you didn't go into it thinking you were going to lose, but actually thought that you might solve it, figure it out? And it was that shift, right? Because we also have the negative expectation, right?
Sure.
We expect that I'm going to do a sales presentation. They're never going to buy from me, and they're not going to choose me. There are people with far better experience than me. There's no way they're going to pick me. And I think when we go into a situation like that, as my friend pointed out last night, we set the expectation that we're going to fail, and then they just follow suit. And you can tell. I mean, you've had enough experience with people where when they're sort of like, yeah, I'm in over my head, versus I'm confident I can do this thing for you.
Sure. It doesn't mean that we're going to be able to. Just means that
I know it.
Well, and again, it goes back to when we make a statement about something in the future that we believe we will be able to accomplish. We don't have all the information because the information changes the minute we make that statement. And we can't always foresee what could come up that could impact greatly the expectations that we have. Again, you can wake up in the morning and feel like, oh man, this is going to be great. And then maybe you start not feeling well at 10 a.m. and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to just lay down. I just can't function. Well, your expectations have gone out the window, and you couldn't have known that when you sort of got up and decided that those, or over the night, we're thinking, okay, tomorrow, here are the things I have to get done, the expectations that I have for what my day will include. And so I think that is part of the challenge of we desire to complete every expectation that we have. You truly desire, and I know this from all our conversations, there would not make you, and I look forward to the day when you call me up and say, I had the perfect day. Correct? I mean, that would be like the end all be all, right? You might as well just say, done, time up. Because, if you have been searching for something for however many years, that once you find it, it's like City of Gold. All right, I got it. What else do I need to do? I'm done. I can just sort of sit back and say, I achieved the expectation that I had. Now, I hope that happens. I don't know that it will. And I think the challenge is once we achieve those expectations, what's next? And the hard part is we so often aren't able to achieve the expectations that we have.
Indeed.
What do you
So
think about
what's your one thing today, Tom?
I think my one thing goes back to, and I think this conversation helped me solidify this, which was good, is that I try to not have too many expectations because I am not sure what's going to happen. Now, saying that, realizing that when we're talking to a customer and we say, okay, I'm going to deliver this project by this date, and I've had this happen where I was like, yeah, I'm going to have it done by Friday. Well, things pop up and just didn't work the way I thought, way I expected. And so while I think there's value in expectations, I think there's also don't get too wrapped up in them because you don't know what is coming down the path that could change it. Now, in the business world, I think that makes it hard because the business world is like someone else might be waiting on what we have said we expected we would be able to get done. And so how we marry those two things together without driving ourselves crazy, getting us unbelievably frustrated and stuck, and able to move forward when sometimes things don't go the way that we planned is a challenge. So I don't know if there's a one thing in there or not. That was just kind of a stream of consciousness thought about the challenge that I think expectations provide and the benefit that they may drive us to try to achieve those things that we desire.
I want to say, I'm going to say good morning to my sister because I see her on there today. Great to have you here. There it is. Good morning, Tom and Bob. If you're, she just sent us a note. That's great. Happy Monday to you, Beth. I think for me, Tom, it's having more grace in myself and just extending myself some grace and saying, you know what, things get in the way. I left my house at the perfect time to be at my office this morning, and every single red light I hit. I never hit every red light. And there were two buses. I never hit two buses. Everything went against me, and I was starting to get frustrated. I thought I was going to be late. And I'm like, wait a second. I did everything I normally do. All systems were perfectly set up. There was no deviation on my part. It just means it's a fluky day for whatever reason. And I adjusted because at first I started to spin out of control and get really upset with myself. Yeah, I should have left 15 minutes earlier. And it's like, if I left 15 minutes early, I would have been 15 minutes early and earlier than usual. And so I think giving myself that grace and saying it's okay. I did the best I could. And there are factors outside of my control. Wow.
Sure.
And I think that might be really valuable for me later today.
Yes. And, there also is the hope that there are people, if there are people who are counting on that they understand. They may not. And hopefully they, like I would have understood if as soon as I saw your note, you said you're going to be you might be a couple minutes late or you need 5 more minutes. Yeah. It's like, all right, must be, he got, something happened. Okay.
Right.
That wasn't his intent. So something happened out of sorts. I understand that. Now, obviously, there are things that have different ramifications based on it.
And it's also an anomaly, right? You're used to me being on time. So when it's off, there's a thing. I think the thing that drives me is the person who's chronically late and they text you 3 minutes before they're supposed to be there. Hey, I'm running 15 minutes late. And they've done this 7 or 8 times.
Sure. Because they have not.
Their intention was not to be on time.
Well, I would imagine that their intention was to be on time. They just haven't accounted for all the things that, I go to the chiropractor usually twice a week, and just for a quick adjustment, which is nice, especially after running around on a lacrosse field or sitting in a chair all day. That, my intention was that 11 o'clock was when the appointment was, and I was like, my intention is to be there on time. And then I had a client call that runs up to like 10:30, and I would think, okay, but if I get up from that call and I walk out the door, I'll be fine. Well, inevitably that didn't happen. And, I would have to do something else. I'd have to let the dogs out or whatever it was. And I'd be showing up at 10 after or 5 after. And so finally I said, why don't we make the appointment 11:15? I'm going to keep in my head that it's 11, and that will help me not likely be there at 11. And yet I will be there on time. And I think sometimes people haven't figured out how to modify their actions to ensure that they are not always late.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks.
I think we've given people more than enough to chew on for a Monday.
It depends on what their expectations were of the show this morning.
I walked into that.
Some people would say you threw a softball that I could hit out of the park, so I appreciate it. Let's look at it that way. That was planned. Come on, work with me here, Bob.
Do you know what? You know what, Tom? You know what proves to me I'm getting older? It is really hard to button this button on these dress shirts. Like above the cuff, there it goes. I have more and more trouble with that every day. I'm really starting to worry.
Maybe your expectations are too high. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter if that's buttoned.
Apparently not.
That's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. If you feel like I feel inappropriately dressed if I don't have those buttons buttoned, okay, then it's
time to do.
All right, so which doesn't surprise me now that you say that. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show today. If you have one thing you'd like to share about our own expectations and how you look at that or deal with it, please feel free to share it in the chat. Another place you can share it is inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If you are not yet a member, it's easy to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then just ask to join, because it is a private group. Because we're trying to create a space where people can have conversations like this to help them figure out how to move forward and not get stuck or stay stuck. And so all you have to do is tell us why you're a renegade, and then you can become a part of our growing community that is helping people take their next step on their own unique pathway to success. So we hope that we will see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and clean out that refrigerator. You know it needs to be done.
Yeah, funny on a Monday that you're cleaning out. It's funny that's not yesterday. Seems like Sundays are the days that people go in and clean out their refrigerator. You're just reading it. I understand.
I'm just doing my job.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.